we're gonna build the fuck out of a Geo Metro engine. I'm gonna build.
Think about Geo.
I'm gonna build a 3-banger fucking like 700 horsepower 3-banger.
What's up, crew? Welcome to another video. My name is John Connie, aka Big Man Syndrome, and this is episode 2 of Prjct.POD, where we talk about cars because they're cool. Today's episode is something I believe every car enthusiast gravitates to at some point in their journey, and that's engine swaps. For the most part, unless you got a ton of money, you're probably going to get a car that doesn't have a ton of power up front or has room to grow. Even more common now than before, engine swaps are so accessible, whether it's the cost to do that or the plug-and-play nature of some of the kits that are available. Like Justin and I dive into how easy it is now to put an LS into an E36 because there's an entire kit ready to go that honestly I might be entertaining soon. And then at the end of the episode, I bring up my wild idea that I'm pretty sure Justin is not on board for. Let me know down in the comments what you think once you get there, and enjoy the episode.
We're doing it live.
Doing it live. Doing it live.
Doing it live.
Live.
Funny arrangement because, yeah, you got some stuff to say too.
Special guest Zeke.
Special guest Zeke. Yeah, so the topic's going to be funny. A little bit funny.
I'm ready.
And I think we do have to do something in order to gain viewership and listenership. We will have to cover some topics that are more consumable, which we haven't been there yet.
Yeah.
But we're not ready for that yet.
No.
Because today we're going to talk about engine swaps.
Oh.
Swaps.
Swaps. Plural?
Maybe. Yeah. Dual 4-bangers in...
Are we going to finally do my Geo Metro idea?
No. Front and back engines?
Dude.
No. And I think I'm going to get to the meat of this subject later, but I wanted to talk about just engine swaps in general and where they are now. I don't even know what they were like before because I wasn't so into cars understanding stuff. I don't even know if you typically did engine swaps back in the day.
I mean, at least for me, I really didn't get into doing engine swaps until early 2010, 2011-ish. I feel like the landscape really hasn't changed too much on them. It's, if you're going to do an engine swap and you have a JDM car, you try to get a 2JZ. If you have any other car, you do an LS. Yeah. That's pretty much been the go-to, at least from late 80s cars and on. Yeah. Those are the two most swapped engines, and that's what you go for when you try to do a swap. If you do a budget swap, I've heard of budget swapping where they go and pull a 90s Mustang 5.0 engine from the yard and drop that because it was a ridiculously built engine for no reason.
Yeah.
And it'll cost you $300 from the yard, and you can do a couple simple modifications to it, and you have a 500 horsepower fucking engine.
Yeah. I probably should have just done research before. I think I was originally going to start this episode differently, and then I thought to make it more well-rounded and not just be the original idea, I was like, maybe we should just talk about swaps. But I kind of imagine, my assumption is that swaps were more simple back in the day. It was very purposeful, right? If you're building a drag car, your early days of drifting wasn't even in America 2010 probably 2006. Oh
yeah. No, drifting was early.
And 90s. Drifting in that time was you get a 240SX which has the engine ready to go. But now you basically can take any car you want, and if you're smart enough and ingenuitous enough enough, you can take any engine and put it in any car. Jimmy O is putting, he hasn't touched this car in a long time, but he has I think it's a Porsche that he's sticking a Ferrari engine, a Maserati engine in, a V12. I don't know how he's doing that, but if you're a fabricator, you can make it work. But now, because of that, if you don't have that much experience, you can get certain engines that have support. The E36 can accept an LS, it can accept a JZ. They have the parts for that.
Well, that's kind of what we alluded to on the last episode is with the advent of the internet and everyone kind of starting to really utilize the internet and e-commerce and stuff like that, people who made specialty parts, like specialty fabrications, are actually able to put their stuff online. And
it's like accessibility.
You can now buy all that stuff. Whereas before, doing a crazy swap required you to either be a fabricator or know a really good fabricator, and it took a lot of hours. Like, I did have a buddy who owned a shop here in Orange County, and this was back in 2012, but he took, I forgot what the body code was, but he took an M5 engine and threw it in an E30. And
those are V's, aren't they?
V10s. It's a V10 and an E30. And
that is
obviously
not big enough.
Yeah, obviously there was no support for it at all. So we had to fabricate everything to get it to swap in. And I wasn't a large part of that swap. I wasn't like a major player in it, but I did come to the shop. I did help him wrench on a couple things, and we did a lot of I did a lot of the top end of that engine. But yeah, like the engine mount, the motor mounts, the subframe, like we had to do all these modifications to the car just to fit the engine in. And it was literally taking a hoist, bringing the engine down, seeing if it could fit. If it didn't fit a certain way, then we had to cut a body panel. Take it out, cut the body panel, bring it back down. Does it line up? And you have to put other factors into it. Like when you put an engine into a car, right? The power from that engine and transferring it to the driveline or the drivetrain, if it's not balanced or if it's in a certain angle, it's going to snap, right? So you have to get it angled correctly. You have to get it aligned correctly. You have to have, certain, support bearings to, place to the side to make sure that the power that's generated is balanced and makes it to the wheels without snapping anything. So all those factors, when you were swapping beforehand, it took a very, very long time to fabricate, calculate.
You had to know so much more. Like now, even talking about that level, right? If you were to do an LS swap into an E36, which is very, very common, you're probably having to factor in some other things too, because that's a lot more power being delivered into the chassis and the positioning of the transmission, the drive shaft length, but all of those things it's been done so many times now that you can probably find enough information to get it done correctly.
I mean, they have, like, with the major engines like we were just talking about, that an LS3 or, an LSX. I really think the LS1 and LS3 are the most popular ones, but, like, those engines or 2JZ, they have complete kits for them now. So it's the engine mounts, the drive shaft, center support bearings, the bushings for the engine mount. Like they've thought of everything. Even I think on the E36 there's like a transmission mount that gets added, and the kit has that in it as well. So they've created these entire kits where you just buy the engine, you buy this kit, and you don't have to calculate anything else, right? Like that M5 engine swap that we did, it took us 2.5 years to get it in. Not because we were waiting, like we worked on it pretty much every other weekend, or like at least twice a month we were working on it. And I know that doesn't sound a lot, but when you're putting like 7-8 hours into each session, it adds up.
Well, now people are like, we're talking about accessibility. Now things are cheaper to get. You can get the tools that were previously way too expensive. You can kind of mess around with AI CAD files that are way easier to do calculations without being like a savant.
No, this was most of the time we were waiting for one of the fabricators to create the part
on other people
to give it to us to see if it even worked, right? And it's like it didn't work, and we would take like an angle grinder. I remember Ben taking like angle grinders to the parts and just cutting out what he wanted and then sending it back to the fabricator like, this is what it needs to look like now. And they would make a new part from that would basically become the template, and we would make a new part from it. But it took like 2.5 years to get this engine in. And I mean, he wrecked the car like a month and a half later because it was just so much power to a car that was so light, it was ridiculous. But to the point, like engine swaps nowadays with a common engine or a more popular engine to any semi-popular or popular car, there's going to be a kit. There's going to be all the calculations done. It's gotten to the point where it's like turbo kits back in 2012.
It's basically a plug and play or a bolt on.
A turbo kits with the chip, and you just bolt it on, and you're good to go.
It's almost like, I don't know that they have a full, like, if I, so as a segue, if I can't figure out my S52, I will legit give up and sell that thing. And while it would be tempting to get an S50, because then it would be a legit 95.
Yeah.
I would rather get an LS, because if I'm going to go through all the trouble to switch my engine, I'm going to do an LS. It would be so sick if it was a bolt-on where you paid $15,000 and you just got everything shipped to you versus having to be like, oh no, they have here's your crate.
They have. There's actually, I think it's I don't remember the company, but it is a full LS swap. Here's the engine, here's the transmission, here are all the supporting parts for it, and it's like $8 or $9 grand. It's an LS1. It's an LS1. It's like
stay tuned for the LS swap of the future. Because, like, first of all, I love the power of the inline six, and it's fun, but I want the chop.
Honestly, I think for what you're doing with that build, doing an LS swap
makes sense.
I think it would be fine, right? Like, you're not trying to. Obviously, the difference between our builds, I'm trying to stay more traditional to what the car has. Obviously, I'm adding a turbo, which these cars didn't have turbos, but like, I want to try to keep the parts.
Yeah.
BMW, right?
True. Yeah, you're semi purist. Yeah. It's like Purist Plus.
I want to modify the purity out of it, right? So,
pure mod.
Yeah.
Purist, that's like my Evo.
Yeah.
I'm not going to keep it pure. I'm going to mod it. It's going to be, what's it called? OEM Plus?
Yeah, OEM Plus. Something like,
OEM mod.
But for the drift missile, I mean,
it's already messed up.
We're creating something that's fun and that you want to, like, take to the track, and it's not really, I'm not really for LS swaps on E36 because it's been beaten to death.
Yeah.
Pretty much, like, it's a dying horse. But for the application of what's happening and what we're going to be using it for, absolutely. Like, and do the LS swap, and it'll be cheaper. It's going to be a lot more reliable, I believe, than the 52. And not that the 52s or the 50s aren't reliable. They're really reliable engines. We've just f***ed that one up so much that I don't know if it will be reliable at this point.
Yeah.
So I'm totally, let's do it. I would say let's keep the S52.
Oh, instead of selling it, and throw that into some sort of ridiculous car, right? Because the way that I look at it, like, and what a lot of people don't realize is that the S50 and really the S52, right? The S52 engine is basically the German 2JZ. Mm-hmm. I was going to get into that.
It's such a built motor. They have forged internals. They have the aluminum head. All the valves are titanium. Like, it's absolutely ridiculous how much they put into this motor. And because they had to, similar to the Supras that came over here from Japan, because they had to adhere to the U.S. standard for emissions, they basically just did not change the motor and dumbed it down. It's very similar to the S50B32 motor that the Germans got for their M3s. That one's built a little bit more, like it has ITBs and stuff like that. But from the base standpoint of it, it's almost the same.
Yeah.
So that motor is really, really built. I've seen applications on it where somebody's just thrown ARP head studs on it and a MLS gasket, and it's getting upwards of 900 horsepower off a turbo. And like, they changed nothing else. Like, it's a 250, 300,000 mile engine, and they just threw a head gasket on it, called it a day, and it's making 800 horsepower reliably. So I think we have kind of a gem with the motor. It's messed up, and we'll have to rebuild it a little bit, but I think we can do something really, really crazy with that in a build later on.
That could be fun. Do you think, is it, not clout, but is the 2JZ more desirable because of its heritage?
Yes and no. That's like a really actual loaded question.
Why don't people take S52s or S50s and throw them into XYZ?
One, the 2JZ, I would say, is a better built motor. Not by a lot, but it is better built. I think the popularity of the Supra made, after the Fast and Furious and a couple other movies that I was in, made it a desirable car, and then people started realizing just how ridiculous that motor was.
Yeah, the biggest turbos can go on these things.
I don't think the E36, specifically with the S50 or S52 motors, have gotten the same visibility, so I think people just don't know.
Right.
And that's why they're not going after them, right? We're kind of starting to see that the popularity grow with the 36, with people like Rome and using 36s for drift cars. Yeah, they're getting rid of the engines and they're doing crazy swaps on them, but
he started with an M50.
Yeah, even the M50.
I think 2 or 3 years ago, his season was on an M50, which is just a S50 with slightly different parts.
Yeah, it's a baseline. It doesn't have that stroke on it, but I think as more people start to realize just how good the E36 is as a car, like the 50-50 balance, the ability to, the handling on it.
Yeah, well, people use the car.
Yeah,
people for some reason they swap out the engine.
Yeah, but I think
power, maybe.
I think that as they start to see the potential behind the engine, that engine's going to start growing in popularity a lot more. It will never get as big as the 2JZ.
No, it's like both engines are too old, and the 2JZ will always be great because they're still like, aren't they manufacturing them still?
I think there's like kit companies that are just building the engine,
refreshing.
Yeah, like they either take ones that have been scrapped, rebuild it, or I know like there's a bunch of companies that are making billet blocks of the 2JZ, and then you just build off of that, so you can actually build a 2JZ that was never in a Supra.
Yeah.
Like, just from buying parts online because of how much support is surrounding that engine. So it's kind of grandfathered in as, like, the engine to have for turboing. And I don't think it'll ever be usurped.
Yeah. That'd be a hilarious series, actually. I just thought of while you were explaining that. As it does with Big Man Media, we ran out of space. As I was saying, all right, idea for a series, and maybe it's not worth it, but it could be really fun. You get 2 E36s, swap a 2JZ in one of them. So, if anything, if we could find a rolling shell and super cheap, throw in 2JZ, as long as it has enough parts to make it run with just an engine.
Yeah.
And then the other one, a built S50 or S52, the one that maybe we're gonna blast off. And then stress test them in the same exact environments and see if it's like close enough. Yeah, because it's like you said, popularity is a big deal. Fast and Furious came out. The first one literally had a Supra, blown out Supra, and then they opened the hood. It's like, oh shit, a JZ. It's like, oh man,
2JZ. Yeah. This will decimate all. 10.
This dude,
15,000.
This dude single-handedly destroyed the potential for because they're both 6-bangers. They both have similar displacement.
Yeah, I think the 2JZ has a little bit more displacement than the S52. I think the 2JZ is like a 3.4.
Yeah.
I don't quote me on it because I don't know a ton about it.
Yeah.
But the S52 is a 3.2, right?
Yeah.
So the displacement's almost the same. I know the strokes are the same, the 84.5. They have the same kind of forged internals, the titanium valves. The difference, obviously, with the cam timing is going to be different. It's Toyota's, proprietary versus BMW's Vanos, which I think that's where the performance starts to kind of differ a little bit on those two. But in total, I mean, it's a very similar engine, right?
Yeah.
They're both almost the same, and I think that would be kind of cool. That would be a great series to do, like a stress test on.
Plus, we can build both engines, have the series follow those builds, do exactly the same things, and try to make them basically matched, and then take them both to a track, and just if somehow, because I'm communicating with Rome, maybe he'd want to participate this. And he'd be the drifter that literally redlines the heck out of both of these things around some turns. That would be a heck of a series.
That would be a series.
But I wonder because maybe no one has given the sort of ugly duckling opportunity. There has been people who have stress tested them and have used them.
Yeah.
But to the other point that we made in previous talks, the support is different. 2JZ became the thing, and the support went wild.
Yeah.
Whereas for an S50 in mine, the reason why I would heavily consider doing the LS is because the S52 does not have support.
Yeah.
It is a very difficult engine to modify because there's no wiring harnesses for it. There's no bolt-ons for it, really. I mean, you can do most bolt-ons because they're universal to like the application.
Yeah.
But you don't see S52 as often on the list of what it fits. It's the S50 or M50.
So I think, yes, from the support standpoint, the 2JZ has everything, right? It's gonna trump anything from the S52.
Yeah, like Adam LC has done 1,000 horsepower. His last pro car was a JZ, and it sounded like an F1 engine going down the damn track.
Yeah, even the 1JZs have more support, right? Like just those engines, like I said, became popular, but the reason why they've stayed popular is because they're so well built. Yeah. Right. With the S series though, and like don't get me wrong, there is an S series engine that is absolutely dominating as far as the engine to have sometimes, which is the S54, which came into the E46 M3, and people love that engine, and it is an amazing engine. Don't get me wrong, I am not really sold on having an aluminum block. That's just my own personal preference because I've put so many rods through them that I'm like, just give me a cast iron at this point. Like that thing's bulletproof. But the reason why the S54 was able to run was because the S52 walked, right? Yeah. And I think the S52 is a comparable motor to the S54 with the right supporting mods, and if you build it correctly. But to your point, there's not a lot of support behind them.
Like accessibility makes it easier to build.
If you're getting into cars or you're doing your first couple builds, right? Like you haven't really built a motor before, you're just starting out on the building out aspect. It's not the greatest motor to go with because it's hard to get information off of it, right? Like when I was rebuilding the S50, just to find the tolerance levels for the bearings, the crank bearings, I was digging forever for that, and I have now that information aside, and maybe as part of Prjct.Garage, as we continue to build some of these cars,
bring the S50, S52 out from hiding.
Yeah, we could bring that out, but I was maybe making like a knowledge base of information that we find that was hard for us to find, and we can put it on our site. Yeah. And now it'll be an area where people can go and be like, all right, they built this engine, they might have this information here, and it'll be easier for people to start building motors that aren't necessarily popular.
Well, and what I'm going to say is like, at least for now, until we make this large library and make it more accessible to modify the S52, it's the cheaper route, right? You can find an S52 for far cheaper than a JZ because sought after engine, and then the support is high, but it's probably also expensive to build that type of engine. Whereas if you go with an S50 or even an M50, because like the difference between the two is interchangeable, right? You can change the top end of an M50 and give it at least close to what you can get out of an S50.
Oh, yeah. So, like, the M50 and S50 are almost interchangeable. There's a lot, we call them Frankenstein 50s. Yeah. And basically, you're changing the rods on an M50 to be, to have the stroke so that it seems like it's a 3-liter engine, right? It's still a 2.8-liter engine, or 2.5-liter engine, sorry. But you change the stroke, and all of a sudden it becomes a 3-liter engine. Yeah. But the bore is still the same. So the bore difference is not there. But there's a lot of, like you're saying, like the head is interchangeable between the M50 and S50s. The transmission, flywheel, clutch, even the drive shaft, the back end of the drive shaft, because the drive shaft for the E36 comes in 2 parts. Yep. The back end of it is interchangeable. It's a very, and the reason, not the reason why, but the reason it was so easy to put that S50 into my M50 car was that I didn't have to change a lot of the car. I got the transmission, I had to get a new Gibo because my Gibo was torn up. I got the front end of the drive shaft for that, for the lineup on the ZF. And I think it was because it was more so the ZF and not the Get Trans. And that was it. Like, I didn't have to get new motor mounts. I didn't have to change anything on the engine mounts themselves or the bushings for the engine mount. I didn't have to get new transmission mounts. I didn't have to get anything like that. It was all those parts are M50 parts.
Yeah.
Or the baseline parts. I just dropped the motor in and it fit. So that's more kind of geared towards the chassis, but still from an interchangeable standpoint. I bought a water pump, the Stewart water pump for my M50. I took that out and put in the S50. Like, yeah. I didn't have to get a different model for it. So I think those engines, and we're kind of getting really specific on the S50 and S52, but I think those engines, if you have the time and you want to learn and you have the ability to you have reading comprehension and have the ability to you're willing to look, those engines will teach you so much more than a 2JZ will, because for a 2JZ, you'll go to a forum, you'll read it, and people are like, this is what I did, this is what I did, this is what I did, and you're like, all right, I'm going to pick that one, and it will most likely work, right? Whereas the S50 or S52, yeah, people have kind of that forum support, but in my experience, like, it's a 50-50 shot whether it's going to work. Yeah, so it forces you to really try different things to try to build a certain way and really make the build yourself.
Yeah.
Right? It's kind of
like the build. Easy button, or do you want to challenge yourself a little bit?
Yeah.
Do you have the time for the challenge? Are you willing to take that bite out? But that's for now, right?
Yeah.
That's for now, and maybe we prove the S52 is as good, and then start building that sort of knowledge base so people can find that easy button. But
I want to do that for multiple motors, right? That aren't really.
It would be cool.
Like I think, some of the tolerances for the S54, even like the M20s, Geo Metro engine. I don't even know the engine code for that, but we're gonna build the fuck out of the Geo Metro engine. I'm gonna build.
Think about Geo.
I'm gonna build a 3-banger fucking like 700 horsepower 3-banger.
We are going to blow a car up.
If you guys want me to build this, please blow this channel up. I will fucking build it.
We will make it happen. All right. So speaking of hilarious builds, the segue. I have an urge, more of a need. I don't know why, and it won't be my Evo 9 MR because that one's treasured. I don't even want to put that. Yeah. I barely want that one to be a 500 horsepower car because I want to keep it good. I don't want to touch anything that will break it.
That's going to be the car that's going to take us to our Prjct.Garage headquarters.
Yeah.
To build a ridiculous car.
That's the car that's going to allow me to go from A to B because I don't want to drive my truck around. It's too much gas. So one day. And I want to do this to 2 cars, but the funnier one is I want to get an Evo 8, probably an RS if it's one of the cheaper ones, or just some cheap Evo 8, and likely a rolling chassis. And I want to EV swap it.
Oh, God. No. We just lost everybody. Everybody's gone now. They're like, Geo Metro 700 horsepower, Geo Metro, f*** yes.
But
EV, Evo.
It's perfect.
Are you just
Evo?
Are you gonna capitalize
yes, EVO. Evolution. It's perfect for that reason, and for 2, I think it would be the most hilarious thing because it's already all-wheel drive.
Yeah.
And a stock Evo is quiet, so you roll up on somebody, they're gonna be like, it's just a stock Evo.
Yeah.
He's got nothing on it, and then you just like I think it would be hilarious.
So. We have to check this out. I wonder if the wheelbase for the Model 3, the Tesla Model 3, is similar to the Evo.
I don't think it matters.
No, it doesn't, but I'm saying, if we're building, we'll just take the Evo, we'll just put the chassis on top of the wheelbase.
Cut the Evo off and
put it on top.
I know it has the same bolt pattern for the wheels. That's as far as I know.
I
can put my TEs on the Tesla that we have, the Model Y.
But I think, if we could find a wreck, because I'm sure.
No, there was one that's $4,000 for a shell.
Yeah,
but it's not too bad.
But a wrecked Model 3 or something.
Oh, those are.
We could probably, because people don't know how to drive these. They don't know the power that's behind them, so they look like the gas, and they're running into the whoever in front of them.
There's probably some recommend, but the other thing is you could buy Tesla swaps already.
Yeah, those are expensive as hell. Yeah. I'd rather get a wrecked.
I'm assuming a wrecked Model 3 is probably the same price because it's a damn Model 3 with a battery. Don't even.
I want to see.
So while you're searching this, the other one that I want to do is a Chevelle for some reason.
Oh, you've always wanted to do one.
No, but as bad as I want to have the chop of a Chevelle, I'll put that in the E36 because it's going to be purposely built for drifting, and then I want a quiet Chevelle for some reason. I want to roll up on someone even more so because they'll look at that Chevelle and be like, why is that thing not rumbling and chopping?
Yeah.
Hit the gas and just
away. Oh, so you want an EV swap?
Yeah.
Oh, fuck out of here, bro. Get the fuck out. I'm sorry. This is abuse. CPA is going to come and take this child away from it. No, dude, don't do that.
You need to take him away because I'm suggesting an EV swap.
You allowed him to be in that sphere.
No, get the most rust bucketed shell, or even like they still sell the chassis, I believe, on Summit. Buy a chassis, 3D print the body so it's lightweight, and then EV swap the heck out of it.
Oh, jeez,
that'd just be hilarious. So I think it'd be funny.
These are like $7,000.
Yeah, under 10 grand.
$6,000 or $7,000 for like a wrecked. And these aren't even that wrecked either. Like I think we can.
Well, because I believe you can salvage a Tesla much easier than you would salvage a normal.
Like this one, $7,400. Like I think you can just buy that outright.
I wonder what's wrecked about it.
Yeah.
Like what is it that if you were buying that, can you drive it, or was it just such a simple accident? And they're like, oh, it's salvage.
Let's get us out of here.
But yeah, I guess we can end it there because obviously I've lost any hope for Prjct.Garage to grow because I want an EV swap.
Yeah, no, our channel already. You can't do that shit.
I don't know. If this gets enough views, give us a poll down below in the comments. Which I believe I can actually add a poll, and maybe I'll do a short for this. Would you think an EV swapped Evo and capital EV lowercase o 8? Or would it be an Evo 11 because the 10, and then like if they were to make an Evo again?
No, you need to make it an Evo X.
That's what the 10 is.
Well,
the 10.
Yeah, I guess.
Or Evo or Tesla EV swapped Chevelle. Would either of those be cool? Yes or no? That's all we need. Just a yes or no. I'll know what's up.
No, they're not cool.
His vote has been cast.
Yeah, that's not cool. I will build it. We will build it,
and then you will wreck it.
If people want.
Oh no, it's on fire.
But like, I will immediately buy the same cars and make sure we do a proper build.
So like I said, I have an Evo 9. I will keep that Evo 9. And if anything, at some point, it will be upgraded to be a 500 to 700 horsepower car.
No, you don't understand. I'm not saying like we buy it and have a clean one. No, I have to make a ridiculous build from one of those cars
I have that plan
offset the other ridiculous side.
I have that plan. So for the Evo 8, I want another Evo 8, and I want to do everything to that I don't want to do to the Evo 9. I want to take apart the engine, put new cams in. I'm assuming because the Evo 9 has forged internals. I don't think the Evo 8 ever had forged internals, so get that built out.
It should.
I want a 1,000 horsepower Evo 8.
Okay, yeah, let's do it.
I'll keep the Evo 9.
All right, then you can
MR.
EV swap whatever.
And then a Chevelle. Like I said, I want the chop. If I've got enough money, I'm gonna have me a pure Chevelle.
Yeah,
SS. It might not be an actual SS. I'll make it an SS.
It's SS.
Yeah. It'll be SS.
SS. Not like 1940s SS. Like we're talking like 60s SS.
Yes.
Yeah, not the German.
With the
not the
German
SS.
Wait, whoa. Bye.
All right, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. If you're new, consider joining the crew. By subscribing to our channel, you're going to be entered into a giveaway, which is right now for a set of wrenches from Harbor Freight. They'll be Icon brand, about $100 value. And honestly, I might be trying to up the ante to see if we can try to get our subscriber numbers to jump up a little bit more, because that's the basis of our giveaway. By being a subscriber, you're entered to win, and once we hit 1,000 subscribers, we're going to be giving away the set of wrenches and plus something else. So stay tuned for a short. I'm going to talk about how I'm going to up the ante. And if you need another reason to join the crew, we got a lot of content coming, whether it's here sitting down talking about different car topics, or I'm going to be working on my E36 soon. I've got my Evo 9 that I've been doing some work to. I'm going to have a Tundra as well. So a lot of different cars in my fleet. And Justin has an E36 that we have plans to DIY paint as soon as we can. That'll be fun. And talking about this podcast, if you have any ideas of what we should talk about that you'd like us to dive into, we'd be happy to add it to our lineup. And if you're not new and you know exactly what to do, hit the like button, leave a comment, share this video. Those are the ways that help grow the crew. And until the next one, I'll see you later, crew. Oh, and go spend some money on that money pit.